Hey everyone, it's Dandin Mindfire from the Bristol Bay server, and I'm here again to bring you another instructional video on how to play an Enchanter. Today we're going to be focusing on Enchanter DPS and Keybinding, and how to execute a proper DPS rotation during burns and during regular rotation. Now, I understand that this may not apply to everyone. However, this is just an instructional video for Enchanters at level 100 that will downplay and down level to approximately the level 82 to 85 range. Now, as you can see here, I've changed up my UI from the last time we did a little bit of a broadcast, just upon some requests that I had received because they said that it was a little bit hard to view. Now, we'll start by going over keybinding first, and I'll explain that by stating that keybinding is basically binding multiple actions to the same key. Now, what that will allow you to do is it will allow you to chain multiple actions by just pressing one key, and therefore increasing your DPS by not having you searching all over your keyboard or with your mouse or whatever have you to be looking for your spells, abilities, discs, AAs, etc. So, first off, we start by going into the options window underneath keys, and you can see I pulled up underneath spell casting. So now you can change it from the cast spell gem 1, which is the defaults here. You can change the key gems that you want to change just by clicking on it here and pressing a key. For me, the key is K for kill. Now, there's been a lot of posts about this, but I wanted to kind of run it through. So, basically, because I have spell gems 5, 6, and 7 bound to the K button, this will allow me to just press K repeatedly, and it will chain 5, 6, and 7. Now, an important thing you need to realize is it goes in sequence. So, if you bind spell gems 1, 2, and 3 to the K button, it will try and cast 1, and then 2, and then 3. So, for my example, I have 5, 6, and 7 bound to the same key. So it's going to try and cast 5, 6, and 7. Now, that being said, you have to kind of play around with the timings a little bit, play around with the timers, make sure that your spells that are being refreshed, so your cooldowns are actually going to overlay. So for me, Mind Cleave is going to cast, and that's going to have a brief cooldown. Then Mind Scythe is going to cast, and it's going to have a brief cooldown. Phantasmal Assault will then try and cast, and it will have a slight cooldown also. But by the time Phantasmal Assault is done casting and ready to go, the first gem in my weave, which is Mind Cleave, will have reset. Now, I'm going to explain a couple things, but you can also bind a couple other things to this. You can bind as many things as you want. I have bound hot button 3, labeled nuke for DPS, as my K button also. Now, go ahead and play around with this, bind whatever keys you feel necessary. I just recommend doing the K key for myself because K means kill, and that's very much easy for me to remember. So, because of this, I'll just show you a little bit of a brief demonstration here. I just target my target and hit the K button over and over. Now, part of my nuke key there will send in my pet. So now, as you see, I'm just pressing the K button, my gems are remaining gray, but everything is casting in order and I'm not missing any cast times. Now, this is all well and good, and we're loving that. We think that's amazing. We think that's awesome. Now, this is only the first part of the system. So, because of this, another thing to make note of, when your gems are gray and you cannot cast, so we'll do that now. Gems are gray, we cannot cast. We can click AA abilities and cast in between there. So I'll hit this button. It'll actually hit another ability of mine, which will weave it in there and cast it nicely for me. I'll go over a couple hotkeys and stuff in a little bit here and how we can play around with that and stuff like that. But I want to get into my spell gems and the DPS rotation for a burn first. So my spell gems are pretty standard from the last video, you'll see. We start out with Tash, Charm, Cripple, Unity Rune, Mind Cleave, Mind Scythe, Phantasmal Assault. Then I have Amplifying Aura, Chaotic Confounding, Perilous Disorientation, and of course my favorite mez in the game, Mesmerizing Stare. And then, of course, no spell gem would be complete without our mandatory mana recursion aura. So, to execute a proper DPS, you want to have a good aura setup going on. So, when you are DPSing, when you are in a burn mode, there's a couple things that you need to realize. We get another aura line called the Twin Cast Aura, so I'll go ahead and pull that up right now. So Twin Cast Aura rank 3, or rank 2, or rank 1, whatever you have. For me it's 3. Basically, what this does is it gives you an 11% chance to twin cast. Now that's great, except it doesn't stack with one of our burn abilities that I'll go over here in a minute. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to be running these auras normally when a non-burn situation. You're going to be going twin cast and mana reverberation. Now, this is during a non-burn situation. And I'll kind of explain why. You'll get to see it in a bit here. So, I'm in the guild hall, so there's not really any risk of my burns going away, so I'll just hit my burn key, and I'll pull that up here for you lovely fellows to take a look at, and I'll kind of go over what it does. First off, as you can see, it tells my group that I'm going to go burn mode, and it tells them that, well, I'm about to go beast mode. So basically, I hit this key, and the following AAs go down. Illusions of Grandeur, Improved Twin Cast, and Calculated Insanity. So, what these abilities do. Calculated Insanity gives you a bonus to your damage and a bonus to crit rate. This is lovely. We want this up when we're burning because we want to do the maximum amount of damage potential per cast. Then it pops Improved Twin Cast Aura. And then as you can see, the Twin Cast Aura that was here before in this slot disappeared. So this is no longer helping us. So we can go ahead and remove that in the aura window. So we'll remove that. So it just takes a little bit of prep work. Then you'll also see that it pops Illusions of Grandeur. Illusions of Grandeur is a very powerful buff, and as you can see, it lasts 2 minutes. What Illusions of Grandeur does, it improves critical chance, improves direct damage, and it also improves damage over time. Go ahead and take a look at the spell gem. I'm not going to go percentage by percentage as to what it does because it depends on the ranks of AAs that you've placed in this. So this for us is our ultimate burn combo. With this hotkey here, you will pop everything. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, it'll also pop Focus of Arcanum. And of course, the name of that and the level of that will depend on what you are. So Focus of Arcanum, what that does is it gives your spells a greater percent chance of landing. So you're not wasting, you're improving your damage, you're improving your critical rate, you're twin casting, and what that means is you're nuking twice every time you cast one spell. And as you can see, it has counters. So this button here that I just created called Burn Amply will pop all of these abilities for you. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this on screen for a little bit longer so you can jot it down, write it down, either that or pause the video right here, tab into your game and create yourself a super hotkey. So basically, when this is up, then you want to switch your aura stance. Now, in a group situation, you want to be running Amplify Aura and Mana Recursion Aura while you're burning. Because Amplify Aura increases your spell damage by, well, I have rank 2, so it's like 3% base. So it increases your base damage. And then what Mana Reverberation, sorry, it changed over the years, Reverberation Aura does is it adds another damage proc to you. So just like the rogue poisons or the other stuff that basically allows melee DPS to proc an additional damage when they swing, this allows me to proc an entire another nuke whenever I cast. So I just went beast mode, I just hit my buffs. Let's say that theoretically speaking this mob is a raid mob or a group mob. You've already gone ahead and DPS'd it, you've done everything that you possibly can do. And then you start your rotation. So you're going to go through this and just hit your kill button over and over that we discussed earlier how to make, and you're going to maximize your damage by just creating this nice weave here that you got going on just by pressing your one key. It's nice and easy and everything is great. Now, as you can see, as we do this, the twin cast counters on the left hand side are slowly decreasing. They're going from 19 to 10 all the way down as each spell kind of counters down and ticks. Another thing, let's move this, that you're going to notice is calculated insanity has another tick counter. So it's counting down as I nuke. So this is going to eventually fade. So when calculated insanity fades, you're going to want to either A, cast a glyph from your expendable AAs, or if you don't want to do that, you can twist in something called Third Spire. Third Spire, I have another hotkey for this. It's a very, very, very weak crit modification. It's not very, very strong. At its max level, it's only like 7%, and you definitely don't get the bonus damage that calculated insanity does. So when this buff there fades away, my burns are about done. So I'm not in burn mode anymore. Now I'm not really going to be doing as much damage. I'm pretty much back down to standard. So let's close this out and let's talk about standard DPS. So when we're not in burn mode. Basically, standard burn mode involves the use of this mez, chaotic confounding, or any of the other chaotic abilities that are in our spell lineup. So to access that, we go to direct damage, enthrall, and as you can see, it starts at 83. 83, 88, 93, 98. So this is a fairly new spell line for us. It only starts at about 80 plus. So basically, I've already got it up in my version. So what we go ahead and do is we cast Mez on the mob that we are fighting. As you can see, my pet disengaged. So you don't want to be doing this particular method where you nuke or you mez the mob that you're killing if you have a pet tank or you have a lot of mages or necros in your group. That's going to make them upset. But as you can see, a twin cast buff came up on my spell bar here, Chaotic Confounding Gift. Lasts 24 seconds and 2 counters. 2 counters of twin cast. So the next 2 spells that I twin cast are going to be I want them to be my largest nukes. Oh, I will mention this now, Chaotic Haze, while I have this up. I didn't mention this during my burn because I kind of overlooked it, so my apologies. So we'll hit this. Chromatic Haze. Chromatic Haze, what this does, okay, it doesn't really explain it. Chromatic Haze increases the damage, the base damage of your next nuke that you cast. So one of the reasons I don't tie that to my burn key is because I want to hit this and then hit my biggest spell, and in which this case is Mind Cleave. So as you can see, I'm going to nuke this. This counter is going to go down, and this buff's going to go away. So I just hit this guy for a maximum amount of damage, and I can follow it up again with Mind Sight. The nice thing about the multi-bind key that I created is it works for both tactics, because as you can see, this regens, and then I just get ready to mez and just click my mez or whatever, have a separate key for it, whatever you prefer. And then guess what? Our next nuke is ready. So you're still twin casting, you're still in burn mode, you're still doing the maximum amount of damage that you possibly can do in a non-burn situation, so without any activatable AAs. Now, as you can see, I'll do this again, my pet's going to disengage. So that's bad mojo when you're pet tanking or you're grouping with a lot of pet classes, so Necros, Beast Lords, Magicians, or if you're charming. So we'll use our friend over here as a secondary dummy, and we'll say that he's another mob. So to counteract the fact that you have a pet tank, or that you're not supposed to be mezzing the one that you're killing, or maybe you're killing a name that you can't mez, or you're fighting something that you can't mez, you can pull in another mob and mez him with chaotic. So basically it would go something like this. Mez this guy, click over to here. Of course they'll be on your extended target window during a regular fight, but these are dummies so they don't show up. So then you click back over to this guy here, mez him again, and just kind of keep repeating the process. And as you can see, you're not losing the pets. The pets are still fighting, but you're still amplifying DPS, you're still applying everything. Now, that's your regular non-burn situation. I've had lots of channers tell me that dots are viable for DPS, but let's just stop this combat and stop this discussion right now, and I'll kind of show you as to why they're not. So we'll pull up our dot. So we'll go with Mind Squall, and actually Stifle is the best one. So we'll go with Stifle. basically between 1,958 and 1,958 every 6 seconds for up to 48 seconds. But if you look, the cast time is 2 seconds. So I can cast this, or I can go ahead and blast this off and get my mez off and get 2 twin casts. What do you think is going to end up with more damage at the end of the day? A twin casted nuke or a single duck? I demonstrated this a little while ago by posting parses of 3 dots, a 3-dot rotation versus a standard nuke rotation, and the numbers are astronomical. Like, you don't want to be using DOTs for standard groups where you're doing damage. Now, there's the odd situation where dots are acceptable. Some of our dots have a debuff component on it, which I'm not going to downplay or say anything wrong about, because in some situations, of course, that is viable. However, when you're doing straight damage, you don't want to be using dots. Forget they exist. Our nukes, coupled with twin cast and our auras, which mine have faded because I've sat here and talked, are definitely our best bet. Another thing that you'll notice is, I'll pull up the twin cast aura. Twin cast and mana recursion are what you want to be running in a standard group. Now, for standard groups, that's pretty much any time you're in a static zone. You're not raiding, you're not dealing with lots of people burning. But I'll demonstrate this. So I hit chaotic confounding, right? Twin cast aura goes away because it's the twin cast effect. They don't stack with each other. So I'll hit that again, and what you'll see is twin cast will eventually refresh itself. It's programmed to do that. So there we go, comes right back up. So basically, by keeping twin cast aura up, if you, let's say for example, you don't have another mez mob available, you don't have any other available things to mez, you can still maintain a standard 3 nuke rotation and do all right. But for maximum sustained DPS, over, like, disregarding your mana pool, so overall sustained DPS, you want to be using the chaotic confounding trick, which has been subtly dubbed as something that I claimed I invented. Now, I didn't invent this at all. This should have been done by enchanters for a long time, but there was a long, arduous thread that was very painful for me to read about how using dots were viable in DPS. Now, I'm not going to get into that because it's painful and it hurts my eyes. So, the basics of it is, to be doing DPS, you want to have a standard 3 nuke rotation, where your 2 largest nukes are your level 100 Mind Cleave, your level 95 Mind Scythe, and of course, we cannot forget the 98 Phantasmal Assault. Now, of course, this is for channers at level 100. Well, what if I'm not level 100, you say? What if I have other, lower level tunes, level 80, whatever? Now, it still kind of goes this way. You can go down in your nukes, and you just basically want to find the 3 nukes that have the highest damage base that you can find. And then, for focuses and gear, you want to focus on your wrist slot, your legs, and if you're level 96 or above, you want to get a nice robe, which I do not have. Now, what the wrists do, our nukes are chromatic based, which basically means that it will affect the lowest resist of that mob. So if the mob's lowest resist in this case is fire, it'll act as a fire spell, but it'll still trigger as chromatic. Does that make sense? So our wrists are our chromatic damage focus. Our pants are our spell casting time focus. Our head, our helmet, is magic damage, so that's more for other things. So, that being said, you have the basic rotation down, you have the little tricks, you know how to multi-bind, you know how to do all that fun stuff. Now, there are cool little tricks that we can do involving this item here. Okay, it's called the Clockwork Automaton. Hallgresh Elder Beads will also work, but I'll kind of show you why I use the Clockwork. So, cast my Clockwork. He appears, right? Same thing. I mentioned this in a video before that he has many uses. I don't really want to go into the specifics of it, but we'll just say that you can target it. I'll let you play around with that, and you can figure it out on your own. Oh, but Dandin, there's a recast time of 1 minute 30 seconds. Well, that's okay, my friend. He's got a 1 minute recast. So, by having 2 of them, you can pretty much keep this guy up eternally. Okay, so let's nuke him down, whatever. He has low hit points, so you want to keep him away from the mob. Lots of people like to use AA or AEs, magicians specifically. They like to use range spells, in which they hit the target 3 times, and it'll kill him. If you have it standing right here and somebody's AEing or he's in the way, somebody hits a frontal AE or whatever, he's gonna die. So he'll die pretty quick. I'll just nuke him, pretend he died. There you go. So now your vision snaps back to you, and of course you can control yourself. Now, a couple little disadvantages when using our little fellow here. For example, I cast him. Now my vision is bound through him. Okay? If I move him, the camera moves with him. So I can literally walk away and totally forget my enchanter where he's at, which is nice because I can go and scout and whatnot. But as you see, I'm using my movement keys and I'm moving the eye. Dandin is standing there completely stationary, oblivious to attack. But I can click this off and it'll let me control him again. So, that being said, experiment with the eye. I'm not going to go into specifics as to how it works. Basically, just think of him as a targetable NPC. You're an enchanter. Figure it out. Now, beyond that, your standard rotation will include 3 nukes. That's lovely. We love that. Now, well, when is it appropriate for an enchanter to be doing damage? When is it appropriate for us to be flashing off that damage? Why is it important for us to be with the group? There was a post about pulling and why it's all viable and a good viable strategy to be pulling. Now, I like the video, I like the tactic. However, for example, if I have auras up, they're centered around me. Actually, there's a little guy that follows, a little invisible guy that follows me around that casts the spell. So if I book it away from this guy over here, my pet is going to lose my auras. And I hope it kind of fades here. Actually, I'm in the hall, so it won't. But theoretically, my pet is going to lose my auras. So my pet being the party member is going to lose my auras. So if you're grouping with a caster that benefits from the additional, what we call assisted DPS or a DPS, if you book it away from your party and you run away, you're taking your auras with you. Now, there are ways around this. So let's go and take a look. Let's say you're in a pulling mode. Once you hit 95, you get or 95, you get auras that you can drop. So basically, same basic idea as stare. Click the gem, click where you want it to go, boom. You've now left your aura behind. Let's see if it'll actually show up on my screen. It'll show a little dude that kind of stands there. Let's see if I can find him. But maybe it won't. I have a lot of that stuff turned off. But there it is, right there. 2 little red, okay. So basically that's where you left your aura. So if I'm pulling, I can now leave my party and my party members will still have my auras. They'll still be able to be killing and grabbing stuff while I'm over here grabbing the portal guy to be pulling, okay? I will be making a pull video at a later date. I just need to work on a couple things with this recording program to make sure that it is where I want it to be before I start messing around with a little bit more of an advanced tactic for pulling. Now, this is the DPS. This is how we do damage. So when is it appropriate for a enchanter to be doing DPS? Honestly, if you don't have something here in your extended target window to be mezzing and putting to sleep, do some damage. Knock it out. Use that mana pool, okay? As an enchanter, we don't get very many opportunities to do so, so when you do, capitalize on it. That's why I kind of showed you how to make a multi-bind key. So you can quickly access your nukes at a moment's notice. Oh, okay, I got a couple seconds. One of my group mates' favorite things to say, Horse Lord always says, if Dandin's nuking, there's not enough mobs. Okay? So let that be your motto. If there's not enough mobs, show your group, apply damage, charm something. Keep yourself busy. As a enchanter, you should almost be casting 99% of the time, and if you're not casting, find something to cast. Okay? You want to be twisting spells constantly. Make use of that mana pool that you got. Make use of the abilities. You know, throw in a second Spire there for your group mates every time it's up. Okay, increase your group mates' mana regen. It's only 300 per tick, but it's like our version of Paragon. It's better than nothing. Click your robe in between casts because it's an item. You can do that. Toss in a couple of your swarm pets, Phantasmal Opponent, Doppelganger, and Illusory Ally. I'll go over those. Phantasmal Opponent is a tank subtype, so what he'll do is, I don't know if it'll actually spawn in here because it's the guild hall, but I'll try. So, Phantasmal Opponent. Okay, it spawns a pet that looks exactly like my target. So in this case, it's going to spawn a combat dummy. This guy has a lot of hit points, and he's going to taunt the attacker, and it's going to take some damage. It's going to absorb some damage right off your tank. It ignores the pet rule, so if I'm in here smacking stuff, he's still going to take damage. Okay. Doppelganger. What does this one do? Well, it's going to shadow step me away first, and then it's going to spawn 2 versions of me, up to 3 versions of me that are going to attack it relentlessly. The damage off these guys isn't amazing, but it's something that you can twist in between your nukes to give yourself that extra push. One thing I will not recommend using when you are burning is Illusory Ally, which is going to pop another version of me, but this time it's going to give me the aggro from it. This guy is going to sit here and taunt and taunt and taunt and taunt. When he dies, all of the aggro he has gained is going to go to me. This is not what you want when you are burning. You do not want aggro. In fact, you want nothing to do with it. Okay? So, learn your aggro threshold. Learn where you're at. There's a couple A's that you're going to want to get. Subtle casting of passive. And of course, all the damage AAs that come with that. If you have questions about AAs and where you're supposed to be at for doing stuff like that, please post them. I don't really want to go into a lengthy list of AAs that you should be getting, but this is more for demonstrational purposes. Now, that's it. That's Enchanter DPS in a nutshell. It's not hard. It's not rocket science, but it's something that we have the ability to do. Now, I'm going to end this video by stating I am not stating enchanters are a DPS class. Please don't post comments or responses to this stating that we are not meant to be doing damage, we are not meant to be doing DPS, we are a utility class, whatever else that you want to add to that. I respect those opinions and thank you for them. However, there are many, many occasions in which an enchanter is sitting here twiddling his thumbs, okay? An enchanter that is not casting is a useless enchanter. So I'm trying to give people alternative methods to fill their time in which that they can be casting, you know, keeping that mana flowing out of their bar, okay? You should never be at 100% mana, ever, okay? What's another fun little hotkey I can give you? Oh, okay. There was a thread about Enchanter debuffs and the order in which that you should do them. So, I've gone ahead and made this little key. I'll demonstrate it here for you. Okay, I've got my friend Dandin in group so I can see buffs. So basically, lead off by hitting Tash, always. Okay. Oh, wrong button. Okay. Anyways, I would have tashed first and then hit this. But what this does is, I'll do it properly on this guy here. So lead off by hitting Tash first, and then of course your slow hotkey. And what this will do is it will hit Tash, which reduces magic resist and increases chromatic damage. It'll hit Ethereal Manipulation instantly because it's an AA. It will do that while the gems are gray, and then it will cast the AA slow Dreary Deeds, and then of course, as you can see, it pauses the appropriate time frame for Dreary Deeds to cast, and then it will cast Cripple. Now, this stage, most of your important DP dots or important debuffs are on your target. Okay, you can expand on this more by getting a deep sleep proc. You can do this in a multitude of ways. However, unless you're fighting a name or you're raiding, deep sleep isn't necessarily mandatory, and you're going to end up wasting a lot of casting time trying to get deep sleep to proc when you could just simply be nuking it dead. Okay, The name of the game in Everquest has stopped being debuffing and making sure that everything is maximally, easy mode, to being DPS. Okay, you want to be doing maximum amounts of damage. You want to be capitalizing on that. You want to be burning your mana, and you want to be killing things as fast as possible. So, with this slow hotkey that I created there for you, as you can see, Alt activate 2207, pause 0.6. Alt activate 753, which is Dreary Deeds, the slow. Pause 17 for the Dreary Deeds cast time, and then cast 3. Now, play around with these cast times, because these are what works for me on my PC, but with lag on your end, you may have to add 1 or 2. So, and for you, it might be 2, pause 2 in between the first there. Just play around with it. That hotkey will definitely make your life really simple, and it will help you get those debuffs on in the correct order every time. And you won't have to be scrounging for buttons. This is also really handy for boxers. By all means, boxers, guys, if you guys want to be adding in, this cast 1 and then whatever, go ahead and do so. I encourage you to. Throw in those extra lines if you want. You can ditch the ethereal manipulation if you don't have a wizard in your box crew, because ethereal manipulation only affects wizard spells. Now, I usually run with a wizard merc, so that's why I cast it. And I think that'll be about it for today's video, guys. If you guys have any comments or questions about the Enchanter DPS, or how to, maximize your experience as an Enchanter, please feel free to post them in the forum here, or on my YouTube channel, or wherever you feel comfortable, and or even send me a tell in game, guys. I'm more than happy to assist. If you guys have questions about spells or appropriate spells for you to be using at your level, please let me know. I will definitely construct a spell list for you for maximum DPS, as I'm one of those crazy hoarders that keeps all my spells from every level, so I have everything. Now, thank you guys for watching, and Everquest deserves better enchanters. Let's give it to them. Dandin out.